Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the News Behind the News with Ralph Kintav on Mix 94.7 FM. Hope you guys have been having a blessed day so far, and thank you for tuning in to today's program. This afternoon, I have here with me apostle and author, Miss Alicia Liverpool. How are you doing? And thank you so much for coming to the program.
Thank you, Ralph. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the honor of the invite.
Great.
I'm excited about today.
Yeah, likewise. As I stated off air, part of the reason why I brought you here is because, might think that, one, I know that you're a person who have done a lot of studies, but even trainings where leadership is concerned specifically. Mm-hmm. I think, that leadership is crucial in everything in life. Everyone has a possibility or capabilities of exhibiting leadership qualities or leading something, even if it's your own self, but nevertheless, and part of it being part also because, this is Women's Month, and, it may not be your usual news item, but I still find it interesting, one in particular, of being an apostle, being in the field of ministry, mm-hmm. which, historically has been something dominated by men.
Correct.
I think that you have a great input that you can share there. Some of your insights, your experiences, because again, women can do anything, right? And we have, and another thing that's interesting too is we have a lot of women at St. Martin who, have really penetrated the cap or that bar that has been set, and then leading organizations and so forth. But mm-hmm. But it's also not just to gloat about having a title or position, but really ensuring that on a societal level, in our relationships, our discussions, and so forth, that we realize a change that can lead to more, people being empowered.
Correct.
Yeah, in that sense.
When I think of leadership, Ralph, it is there's one word that comes to mind always, and that is the word sacrifice. Because there is no leadership without sacrifice on the part of the leader. Because when you think of leadership, as we briefly talked about, there are a plurality of definitions. You get bombarded with different definitions all the time, and also different multiple approaches to leadership. In my industry, I am in spiritual leadership, but it is leadership nonetheless. And the first question that I have to ask myself is, where am I leading the people? If I don't know where I'm leading, so I have coined my own definition, which is the leader has the vision, the leader communicates the vision, and the leader executes the vision with those so that they can get to that destiny that they have in mind. Otherwise, we're both going into a ditch.
Correct. The blind leader and the blind, basically. Yes. Yeah, because the blind can lead, but it's
exactly
to what end?
To what end? Correctly.
Yeah, to what end?
So that leadership is so needed. Leadership is necessitated in the world, especially righteous leadership. And when I say righteous, I simply mean leaders who will do what is right by the people. Mm. Not a religious term, just righteous leadership.
Correct.
Doing what is right, what is just, what is beneficial to effect the change that is needed for yourself, for others, and for the world by extension.
Mm-hmm. Well, part of that is also in realizing, coming to a knowledge of self. Mm-hmm. It's often kind of difficult when persons speak about discovering or finding their purpose. So I'd like to, I guess, kind of journey there with you in that sense. As far as one, you come from Trinidad. Mm-hmm. You came to St. Martin at a pretty young age. So with that, what was it like establishing yourself and, making this new island your home?
Then I would have to acknowledge all of my predecessors, women who paved the way for women like me who came after. And we're always standing on the shoulders of those who went before us, Ralph. And so it is important to acknowledge that. For me, when I first came to St. Martin, there was no idea or perspective or knowledge that I would one day be leading a people. And that didn't come without its hiccups, its highs and its lows. But when purpose has to prevail, and I'm glad that you use that word, because when you look at your lifespan, we have a life tenancy here on earth. We have an expiration date. And I want to be able to say, like my model leader, which would be Jesus the Christ. When he left this earth, he said, I have glorified you on earth, and I have finished the work that you have given me to do. That was his resignation letter. I want that to be mine as well. And so as a leader, you understand the importance of overcoming every obstacle, surmounting every challenge, so that your purpose is fulfilled, and that you don't rob the people and deprive the people, Ralph, that are meant to benefit from your leadership by not leading. Because we have to understand, Ralph, it's not just about us. When we do not fulfill our purpose on earth, when we are not fulfilling our assignments, we are robbing the people that are destined to benefit from our lives. And this is why I said my first word for leader is sacrifice. Sacrificial leadership is what makes the difference. When you look at a Martin Luther King Jr. and you look at any other leader that is notable, you realize that it was sacrifice.
Yeah.
And that is a component, an essential component in leadership that we don't find today. No one wants to sacrifice. It must be convenient. So we want to lead, but we will lead out of convenience.
With the perks.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, where is the sacrifice?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that you said that, and I'd like to get deeper into that. One of the things that immediately comes to mind is the fact that leadership can sometimes be lonely. Because you ask yourself, well, it seems like you're the only one, with a greater risk. But again, it's to what end, and that is why it's important to have that vision in mind and knowing what your purpose is. Because I think about moments where, the many persons who have just done something beyond measure, beyond average. You did not start with a team.
No.
You did not start maybe with all the resources in place, but there's this moment of solitude, so to speak,
Yes.
where it's just you and your plan and your vision,
right?
And you have to get it started.
And another important aspect, Ralph, is understanding that you have to be called to lead, because without that calling, you're not enabled to do it. So I don't give myself the title leader. It is not something that you aspire to do. It is a calling that you answer. It's an invitation to lead a people. And you know that is your purpose in life, because then you are endowed and you are facilitated with what the resources that you need to be able to do so effectively.
Thank you so much for that. Definitely. Now, so one of the things that obviously consider is that, this worldview that has been established is also definitely changing. Is the fact that before women just used to be seen as the helpmeet only at home, taking care of the stuff at home, but now you kind of still have that going on, but then with the added role of having to have a job, or maybe you own a business and the like. So for you, looking at the fact that you've been involved in ministry, you have your family as well.
Yeah.
What is it like in dealing with the fact that you have your responsibility to your family, but even with a much larger extension, many persons and their families are also counting on you on fulfilling your tasks? Yeah,
and that's the striking that balance, Ralph, between life and leadership for women especially. And I'm thankful that on March 8th, we will be celebrating International Women's Day. And on that day, the theme for this year is Break the Bias. And you're looking at the gender bias that we must break, and we've come a long way.
Yeah,
there's some ways to go, but we've come a long way, and I'm thankful for the women who have preceded this path and has made it possible for women like me to come forth and fulfill the purpose that is on your life. And this is where I go back again to many are called and few are chosen. When you are chosen to lead, Ralph, I do believe that you you are endowed, you are, you have the deposits of divine resources and human resources to help you strike that proper balance, so that one is not neglected. Because I still have my role as a mother. I'm a mother of 3. I'm a spiritual mother of many. So how do I strike that proper balance? It's because I understand that I am chosen for this, and He enables me to execute with grace, to execute this purpose without being overwhelmed. This has been 20 plus years. And there's not one day that I get up there, yes, that I think of, I don't want to lead today, but I always find myself doing what I was called and chosen to do. It's because I understand its purpose and it's not a title. You lead from a different perspective. That's why I said it has multiple approaches. If I see it's a title and I'm just getting paid to do a job, then my approach is different than if I know this is purpose I'm fulfilling. So when I lead, I find enjoyment. My engagement brings enjoyment.
But what about in cases where you are down? When life, just the process of life, you get those dark or low moments. What goes into you experiencing that breakthrough?
The purpose. That's the difference between a leader who has a title and a leader who is fulfilling purpose through their leadership. You encourage yourself. Because, Ralph, there's something about purpose. When you are not fulfilling purpose, you're miserable. You are frustrated because something is telling you deep down on the inside there is more. There's nothing mere about you. There is more to you. And that purpose is what is the driving influence. You know what? I got to get up. These people, as we would say, they hot up my head, but it's okay because there is still a people. There are always more that are with you than those that are against you. And so there are always better days than there are bad days.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, because probably just those against you are the most loudest.
We don't emphasize, and that's the problem whenever I teach on leadership. Emphasize the good. Mm-hmm. Emphasize the good days. Emphasize with confident assurance that the right people, because as a leader, and this is what has helped me, I can speak from my perspective. I don't have all good days. No, I don't. But I emphasize that the right people, and when I say right people, I want to be understood that I am not for everyone and everyone is not for me. So by saying the right people, the people that I am meant to reach in this life. Every person on this earth has a specific purpose, a unique purpose, and therefore you have a unique people that you have to reach. Our problem is that we try to reach everybody, and then we feel rejected when everybody does not respond to us.
Correct.
You see?
Correct.
So it is important to understand. Listen, I am the people that I am intended or meant to reach. That was preordained before I even got here. Let me reach them. And how can I attract those people? Because I will never have to prove myself, my worth, or my value, Ralph, to the people that I am intended to reach. Yeah. I will never have to do that. Yeah. It's just the people that are not intended to reach, then I have to persuade them. I have to convince them that, let's go here. But the people that know your worth and your value, you'd never have to convince them.
Mm-hmm. And with that, then, what comes to mind is also growth. Mm-hmm. Because, in the same vein, as your leading persons, you have to always take that time to further develop yourself, further push yourself, gain new knowledge, improve, sharpen and improve your skills. Mm-hmm. But then what is it like? What goes into ensuring that, as you grow, the people you lead also grow? Yeah. And how do you respond to, cases where, you feel like the many deposits you make in someone has yielded no fruit? Yeah,
no return on your investment. I know about that. And this is why my personal motto is govern to lead. I believe that there has to be a forging of your character, and that only comes when there is personal governance. So my personal motto is govern yourself. There has to be private rulership for public leadership. If there is no private rulership of governance, self-governance, personal governance, if I am unable, Ralph, to have self-governance and self-regulation, if I'm unable to regulate myself, then my public leadership will suffer. It will crumble. It will come to an end before the time appointed. And so in order to ensure my longevity, in order to ensure my long-term leading ability, I have to first govern myself before I do so publicly. And so it's just a matter of integrity in leadership. Don't try to lead somewhere you have not been.
Yeah, gotcha. Because basically, I guess that speaks to confidence, because, for example, off here as we were speaking, you have a case where what you realize sometimes in organizations or institutions is that it's either the leader is leading the people, and if not, the people are just following them, just because they're in that leadership position. But just because people are following you doesn't necessarily mean they're leading you.
Right. Correct. And we see that, the world over. That is, it's evident that many persons are following simply because they have to. But again, where am I leading you to? And it goes both ways, Ralph. It's two sides of a coin. The Bible tells us that without a vision, the people perish. But it's also without a people, your vision perishes.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that's the next thing I was going to, which is, basically team building and working with people. But first, even before that, think about mentorship. Because, I think every leader has had a mentor. Just as it is to be a great educator or teacher, you have to be, at one point, be a good student, right? In the same way, with being in a leadership position, playing a leadership role, you have to know what it is to be able to submit, to be a good follower. And a follower doesn't mean you're mindless. It just means to say that you're committed towards a certain path. So with that, what is your take with mentorship? But also, even in that, there can be dangers, and there've been some people who've experienced having a mentor, but then either a mentor take advantage of you, or sometimes lead you astray, even,
Right.
So I guess what is the approach towards that, so that, you don't necessarily discard ensuring that you have a sound air that you can bounce off ideas to, but even a sense of accountability, but, navigating through the challenges that may pose within that sort of relationship.
And that's a great question, perspective, Ralph, because the first thing in leadership, there has to be mentorship. There has to be investments that are made. And it is understanding, that you desire a return on your investments. You don't always get it. But that should not negate or nullify still making investments. Because never underestimate the power of a seed, of planting a seed. And I have done that in my years in this journey of leadership, where I've planted the seed. Someone else will water the seed, and God will give the increase. And I have to be okay with that. So my first approach, as I said, it has multiple approaches, is understanding, is this a good fit? That's the first thing. Are we a good fit for each other? Am I the one to lead you? Are you the one to follow? Because with leadership, you're coming alongside to take someone to a specific destination. It is to help you fulfill your purpose for being here on earth. And if it's not a good fit, we're off to a bad start. But I, in my experience, it is always to get that connection, and then we can take the journey together. I like the fact of taking the journey together. Although the leader is ahead, the leader still understands I need to come alongside and walk some of us through, especially in spiritual leadership, because in primarily this is the leadership that I offer to people. Of course, my leadership, Ralph, is not just the vertical dimension of connecting people to God. With spiritual leadership, I also am a co-laborer together with God. So I have to also be socially responsible in my leadership. So it is both spiritual and being socially responsible as a leader.
Yeah.
You balance it,
I like that you said that, the socially responsible part, because oftentimes, unfortunately, there's people whose life have been, in a sense, ruined or seriously damaged or experienced great trauma because of a lack of a social consciousness, I would say, because of over-spiritualization of a matter, I'll use an example which, may be taboo, but is a reality. For example, recently speaking to one of the prosecutors, they mentioned that, there's been quite an uptick in domestic violence cases. We know that primarily in those cases, gender-based violence is, for the most part, women who suffer that. And unfortunately, there are people, who have been told by, a spiritual leader, a mentor, to suck it up, pray, and this, take all the blows and God will just come in and swoop in and deliver you.
Right.
But that's not socially responsible.
No.
And even if you look at the characteristic of God itself as well, no father would want their child to be in an abusive relationship. So with that, I guess, what do you think about, I guess, even challenging, transforming, such notions and beliefs?
That's a paradigm shift that is needed, and it is really needed.
Because it's, in a sense, kind of upheld oppression.
Yeah.
If I must say as well.
I do subscribe to prayer.
Yeah.
As a spiritual leader, that is always my go-to. Let's pray. Let's intercede. But there has to be corresponding actions, because faith without works
is dead.
It's dead.
Yeah.
So as a faith-based leader, then the works must follow. And if I don't balance the both, then I am doing an injustice to the people that I lead.
Yeah, definitely. And next thing that I would like to go into, before I spoke about mentorship, is, in the beginning I said, which is true, leadership can be lonely. It starts off by itself. It helps to get a mentor along the way to kind of guide you and give you the perspective you need of better seeing where you're going, or in the case of someone who has already been where you want to go, and they can at least let you know beforehand what mistakes to avoid.
Right.
But then with that comes, bringing the part of bringing persons along with you. One, you have the mass that you lead, but then you also have a smaller group of sub-leaders, you could say. So what is it like in determining, co-leaders, basically deputies, you could say, persons to help you along the journey. Whether in a business, it'll be your manager, or supervisor. What do you look for?
And that's the collaborative leadership that is lacking. It first begins with the security of the leader, because you go from being visionary, Ralph, to being inclusionary. So visionary is the first step. You carry the vision, but then you're not only the visionary, you are inclusionary. And to be inclusionary, have to understand that there will be people who will be in my team that may be better than who I am. I have persons in my group, their strengths are different to mine, but I'm not threatened by your strengths. I am not opposed to your strengths. As a matter of fact, you make a good team member. I want you on my team. But that is a perspective that you need to be secure about yourself as a leader.
Gotcha. And so with that, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. And up next, we'll talk about transitioning, which is another form of being a leader. All right, so stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. You're tuned into the news behind the news with Ralph Kintav on Mix 94.7 FM. And I'm joined with Miss Alicia Liverpool. So, as I said, one of the things that I think you can definitely speak on is matter of transitioning. Because there are times where you definitely have to pivot. You can't also get too comfortable in what you do specifically, because you may have another role, another calling that would be in line of what you're doing, but to a different degree.
That's it.
Which means that the persons you're leading also will have to get acclimated to the change that is coming.
That is so good.
So how do you handle transitions, especially
that is so good.
Not be boxed in that regard?
I have been there. I've been saying the RAIN community. It's been a progressive vision since 2000, and I do believe that you start at different levels. So there are layers to this thing, Ralph. There are levels to your leadership. So you may start at the 30-fold level, and then you transition, you go to the 60-fold level, then you come into the fullness of that particular unique purpose. And that is exactly what has happened with me. I have had to pivot. I've had to make transitions, even with changing the name, because God changes times and seasons. Nothing remains unchanged. And so, and I'll use this scripture because I'm founded on that. To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose. And so if there is a time for every purpose, then pivoting and transitioning is inevitable. And so if you try to stay in a particular time zone, and stuck in that time zone, you will be left behind. So that pivoting, that the evolution of the leader must be seen, and it's a must. It's needful. Otherwise, the fullness, to walk in the fullness of the vision, will not take place. Notice I'm saying the fullness, because you don't start in the fullness. You start at the basic level. It's just like in the natural. A child doesn't start in high school. We started in kindergarten, maybe even early stimulation. So when I started, 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, Ralph, I was in early stimulation, and I have transitioned and pivoted to walk now into the fullness, where I believe I am walking in the fullness of the vision that started 20 plus years ago. Okay. And that's an encouragement to leaders. Don't despise your small beginnings. You must begin somewhere.
Yeah.
But the evolution of you and your growth as a leader is important.
Yeah. Because, I like what you said, because one of the things that can often set you back is a failure. That fear, specifically really just the fear of failure, which holds people back from starting something that they want to do. But then, when you're already in the ring, it feels good to win champion titles.
And you're only defined as a failure if you stop when you fail. So I have failed at relationships, Ralph. I can say this publicly. I have failed at relationships. I have failed because the evolution of the leader is your growth. It's the forging of the character in you that wasn't always present. So in previous times, you would have made decisions and that were not beneficial to either you or the other person. But as you grow, you understand this evolution is necessary, and it's a lifelong process.
But even with that, what is it like? Not necessarily what is it like, but what does it take? I think more so, to communicate. To communicate that, when you're wrong. That is still a challenge. I think it's beautiful. Seeing parents even now doing that, acknowledging because you feel like
I didn't
because you're in a position of authority that you can be unquestioned and do as you please.
But
even
that
even
would
with
be
that,
blind leadership.
Because then even that you need that check. So seems like one of the hardest things in general as a human, but more so once you have that added responsibility of having to be seen as perfect and well to do to communicate an error.
Yes, and that for me is non-negotiable. If I didn't handle it right, I didn't handle it right. I'm going to own it. And hopefully that the person's level of consciousness and forgiveness, we can move on from there. But I'm not going to stay there. That's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So our next thing that comes to mind is, of course, you have a distinct a speaking style, and but a message as well. But one that while it has evolved, you've been consistent in it at the same time. So what would you say went into your process of finding your voice?
Great question. That life is not meant to be a continuous process of trial and error, but I had my trial and error periods. I'm just glad it's not continuous, because in coming into my distinctiveness, there was some trial and error, and I'm thankful for it. But now there is, I know my purpose, I know my path, and I'm sticking to that. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
A little TikTok plug right there.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
It matters because, even with that, then it ensures that the people who are with you are also not confused.
Yes.
Because then they're not hearing multiple.
No, it has always been worship and kingship. It has always been the twofold provision of worship and kingship to reign in this life. It is more heightened. It is more highlighted. It is more, what was the word? Emphasized. That's what I'm looking for. It is now more emphasized, again, because I have come into the fullness of it. This is 20 plus years, Ralph, in the making. And so over the years, God he was extracting, he was excavating, he was removing, he was withdrawing that which was not adding value to my purpose. And the preparation of a leader is extensive, and it is also intensive. And that combination you cannot deny. It's intensive. He gets to the things in you that are not adding value to the version of you, Ralph. Every person, there's a version of you, Ralph, and there's a version of me that we have not been introduced to as yet.
That's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a version of you, there's a version of me that we have not been introduced to as yet. And so we must keep growing. We must keep developing. We must keep allowing the changes, the evolution to take place, so that as we keep journeying, we'll be introduced to the Ralph, we'll be introduced to the Alicia, we'll be introduced to the whomever.
Yeah. The backbone of many of the things you're saying, especially starting off with sacrifice to purpose and all of that, is conviction. With conviction is what allows you to stand strong, to allow you to maintain your integrity, to not bend, to not bow, and the like. So, with strengthening your conviction, your belief in, in what you set out to do, how do you work around I guess I would say the challenges of putting it off for something else, because that usually comes through temptation, you could say, to, and I don't mean in terms of a vice, but opportunity,
right.
Finances and the like, how do you...
And peace is the hallmark of that, Ralph. Anything that does not give me peace is an indication for me. That is one of the gauges that I use for should I or should I not. And if there is peace is absent from that decision making process, then I have to let it rest. I have to let it, because peace is a factor that you should not do without. Because anything that is right for your purpose gives you a peace about it. It's one of the indispensables or essentials that you need in your toolkit.
Yeah, because come what may, you're dwelling in that.
Yeah, your because the embedded in you, etched in your heart, Ralph, is your purpose. And when you are going contrary, you're not on the path.
Puts you in check.
Yes.
Yeah.
That inner voice, that's the check.
Yeah.
You don't have a peace about it.
Can't sleep.
Yeah.
Then
listen, hold up. Yeah. Let's give this some time.
Yeah.
And sometimes that peace will only come when the version of you is introduced as well.
Yeah, but I think that's why it's important to be so clear with your vision and the light, because you can also tear it down.
Mm-hmm.
To the
Correct.
point where it's either weak or non-existent.
Yes, and lack of character, because that's your foundation. You talked about conviction. The conviction is based on your character. It's out of your the character that has been forged in you that you have these convictions, and that you're able to stay true to the convictions that you have.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I would like to go back a little bit to transitioning, because I'm curious specifically in terms of what is your secret. What I mean by that is, when you started out, you say you've been doing this for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you started off as a worshiper.
Correct.
Then you opened your own ministry,
Mm-hmm.
and that has grown and been through different periods as well. So in that, what has been the main thing that has not let you decide to take a step back, but also to persevere despite, the many hurts that may or will come along with it?
And that have come, right. So my foundation is spiritual leadership. And this brings me to the point that I live from the inside out, Ralph. I don't live from the outside in. So whatever happens in my life externally, it is not a determining factor as much as what I know to be my divine purpose, my divine mandate. And so as a spiritual leader, when I talk about spirituality from a biblical perspective, I am not talking about religious activities. I'm not talking about attending church, which is good. Let me just clear that there. We need the fellowship of the saints. But when I speak of spirituality, this is my secret, Ralph, because you've asked me. And so this is my secret. It is being guided and governed by the Spirit. I am not my own. I don't lead myself. I'm led to lead. And so if I'm being led to lead, then I have to keep leading.
Yeah.
So my spirituality is my root, is my foundation. It's my first love. So whatever I do, being socially responsible is as a direct result of me and my foundation. And that's my connection or my alignment with source, with my source. So God, for me, God the Father is my source. And so my alignment, my ability to continue, Ralph, my ability to pursue, my ability to lead, my ability to affect change is as it hinges on my alignment, my personal alignment with my source.
Mm-hmm.
Without that, I'm a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Without that, I would have gone, I would have migrated, I would have been elsewhere. But it's my alignment. I derive my authority. It's a delegated strength. It's a strength that is deposited in you. That alignment. I'm not talking about religious activity, because you could stand in a garage and that doesn't make you a car.
Yeah, that's true.
You can go to church and that doesn't make you a Christian.
Yeah.
It's your personal relationship with the source of your strength, the strength of your life.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah,
that's my secret.
Yeah. Foundation is God.
Yes.
Okay. So with that, then, as I mentioned in the beginning, ministry, the quote unquote church world, has been something dominated by men, by male preachers and stuff, to the extent that you have variations of beliefs of what women should do, can do, where, and all those debates.
Yes.
So for you personally, then, and growing and becoming a spiritual leader, I'll put it like that, and being an apostle, pastoring people and all of that too. What was that like? And dealing with
that came with some serious challenges. And it still does, Ralph, because, again, of our understanding, our convictions, I simply say to people, listen, I am not here to strive with anyone about my calling, about what God has called me to do and chosen me to do. That's something you have to take up with him. it is what it is. Because at the end of the day, I have to give an account to God. Did you fulfill your purpose? Or can I use the excuse, well, Ralph objected to me being a leader, or Sam objected to me being a leader, or Tom didn't like the fact that I was packaged in a female body and so I can't leave. I can't use, those won't be justifiable. What about all the people, Ralph, that over the last 20 years that I have impacted? Whether or not they're still with me, you can't deny that you were impacted.
Mm-hmm.
So how would I have answered that I deprived all these people because you don't have the understanding or the fullness of the truth concerning women in leadership? No. We can't justify allowing people. I refuse to be socially defined.
Mm-hmm.
I am spiritually defined. When God made man and woman, he said, let them. The pronoun was them. Let them have dominion. And that's having dominion simply means we both going to lead side by side.
Yeah. One is not greater than the other. Yeah. Yeah, well said. And that's period behind that, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and we ain't striving about that, Ralph. I'm going into my Trini twang right here, but we ain't striving about that.
Yeah.
No. Because I am not going to expend that level of energy in trying to always counteract and a debate going on. Listen, I have a conviction that I was for this reason, Ralph, I was born. For this reason, I came into the world. You have an issue with that? I suggest you take it up with the one who created me. He is the best one to answer you concerning that. In the meantime, I will fulfill the reason for why I'm here.
Yeah. And again, and that is leadership, because the next thing that you have that always comes along your way is distractions.
Yes.
And distractions take various forms.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
That is so true. And I always tell people, serve the Lord without distractions. Serve without distractions. Be delivered. Ralph, one of the things about leadership, you must be delivered from the strivings of people. Because leadership is intensely people and personal. Mm-hmm. So you must be delivered from the opinions and the strivings of people, striving about this. And you have to be delivered. Otherwise, you would always be going back to, where 20 years ago to still deal with that. No.
Because people become your creator.
Yeah. No. We ain't doing that.
If they're your creator, they can build or break you.
I'm not socially defined. No, I won't be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, our next thing too, because with what you said, comes in line with focus. That's why focus is so necessary. Being diligent, disciplined, determined, and
that vision. Yeah. Keep that vision because, in front of you.
What assists in that too with the distractions is time management.
Mm-hmm.
When you know how your time is going to be spent, what it should be spent on. But that's something a lot of people struggle with, especially with students, dealing with procrastination sometimes and the like. So, how do you get to the point where it is like a non-issue? It's just established in your livelihood.
I mentioned it earlier, Ralph, that we have a life tenancy here on earth. We have an expiration date. So our purpose is time sensitive. The fulfillment of your purpose is time sensitive, and understanding that truth, it changes the way I approach my life. I'm not spending time on anything that is not worthy. Let me put it like that. It's not worthy of my attention. I'm very strategic in the people that I follow, the things that I do. Even not every invitation, Ralph. I honor the invite of every invitation because I just can't. Yeah. And it's just not wise to do that.
Correct. Yeah, because then you experience burnout too.
Yeah. You're here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah,
all over the place.
And nowhere.
Yeah, nowhere.
Yeah, no, it's true. You're here, there, and everywhere, and nowhere. Yeah.
No, it's time sensitive. Your purpose is time sensitive.
Yeah,
Stay focused.
Yeah, indeed.
Be about your father's business.
That's right. No, well said, for real.
Oh my gosh.
No, I like what you said, and one of the things that struck me is leadership is definitive.
Yes, it is. It is. I can't imagine myself doing anything but leadership. I love affecting change. on behalf of others.
Yeah, and even with that, looking at specifically in our nation, our society, what are some of the things you observe where, be it in the business realm, political realm, private sector, and ways in which we can uplift the quality of leadership that we face, because people often blame or tackle the low-hanging fruits and the the persons at the bottom. But oftentimes is in the case of a establishment, you have to ask yourself, how are these people being managed? How are they being treated? How are they being compensated? Yes, you deserve that proper service, but then it always starts from the top.
Yeah.
So I think if collectively as a nation, if
you need the acknowledgement for that, Ralph. It begins with an acknowledgement, and being aware of that is one thing, but acknowledging that there is more. Those three words, there is more, is a driving influence to go after the more. But if you're not acknowledging or non-acknowledging of the fact that there is more and that I can be a better leader, how can I improve? How can I grow? How can I evolve as a leader? It begins with that. That acknowledgement is we are at a crisis right now in the world. Even in our nation, we see it, that acknowledgement that there is more. And how can I, because you have to become vulnerable, Ralph, to admit that there is more.
That's a good, I didn't even touch on that vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because it is tough to do that,
Yes.
when you're when you have responsibilities.
Yes. And not because you have the title leader means that you have arrived.
Yes.
Or that you have honed the best version of you is what we are seeing right now. Let me put it that way. This is not the best version of Alicia, but I'm determined and I'm actively committed to the best version of Alicia. And Alicia has grown, Alicia has evolved, Alicia has, surpassed levels, but it's not the best version. And I'm actively committed to bringing out the best version, because the best version of me as a leader is the best version of my people that follow me.
Yeah. So before we leave, one of the things I would like to touch on is the fact that you recently launched your book. Journey to Judah. It was
Journey to Judah.
Yes. What went behind that, and how long have you been working on it?
Journey to Judah was written in 2014. It was written in a period of my life where I found myself in a cave-like experience. I was going through some stuff on a personal level and an individual level, and my way out of that dark place, Ralph, the stronghold, was praise. And Journey to Judah the premise for Journey to Judah is that you take a journey out of the stronghold areas in your life and you go to the place that God has purpose. And one of the quotes that are in the book, it says that comfort and consolation are in the cave, are in the dark place, but purpose and destiny is in Judah.
That.
You've got to transition. You've got to, when David found himself in the cave, running from Saul, the Bible says that God sent a prophet to him and said to him, do not stay in the stronghold, go to Judah. And David departed. And so I had to take that journey. And it's a journey because it's not an overnight experience. It's a journey that I don't want to stay here. I need to go where my purpose and my destiny is located.
Great. And with that, what are some of the main things you're working on now, and where do you see yourself taking the book further?
Yes. So there are other books in the pipeline that will be released hopefully this month. I had a few setbacks and a few challenges, but we are working our way through that. So Reinology, that's a book that I'm coming out with, and the Ambassador Factor. As you know, I identify as being an ambassador for Christ, as being the government of God is a representative government, and I believe in proper representation of Christ, so that we can accurately represent Him. I'm big on that, Ralph. You know, we don't want proportional representation. I know that's a political phrase, but you understand the context. You know, proportional representation is us not representing Him fully, and I'm all about accurate representation of Christ. We represent Christ to this world.
Gotcha. Okay. With that, I would like to thank you so much.
Yes, this was
definitely
wonderful.
a fun discussion.
Thank you, Ralph, for this opportunity.
A lot of nuggets that you shared, and I really appreciate that.
You're most welcome, and thank you for having me.
Okay, great. So to our viewers and listeners, thank you guys as well for tuning in to today's program, and be sure to tune in again tomorrow. Do take care.